So thank you all for joining us tonight for this IB Diploma Program Parent Information Meeting at the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year. I, for one, am happy to say that we have made it through Wednesday and we're on the downhill side of this week of school. It has been an adventure, but tonight we're really going to focus on sharing some information about the beginning of the school year in general, and then we are going to actually delve into a little deeper exactly IB at BCC and talk about some of the things that are going on this year. So I do want to say a little bit about how this recording works or how this webinar works. If you go to the next slide, Mr. Nelson. So tonight's meeting is a Zoom webinar, and we have some limitations in that webinar. If you've been in one of my other meetings recently, you probably have seen this before, but it's important to know. Because of the large numbers of people who are able to join us, we aren't able to take questions or see raised hands or even see all of the participants at one time. We're also limited on time, so this will end no later than 8. There are several panelists who will present important information, and we will record this and post it online for other parents to view. That recording is actually already in progress. So just a couple of seconds to introduce myself. My name is Shelton Mooney. I am the principal at BCC High School, and I am really excited to be at BCC as an IB World School. This is actually the second school that I've been at that has the IB program, and there are a few things that really stand out to me when I see students who are in IB classes. One of the greatest things that I think that IB students have is really the depth of their knowledge and how they really learn to think critically about the information that's presented to them, and also to develop their own learning. It's also important to me that IB students are globally minded, which is, I know, one of the key components of the program. Especially in our area, we have a large international population, and we have students who are here at BCC, and then we'll be going back to other parts of the world. And it's really important that they have that international qualification that IB provides them, and also that they are confident and independent learners. I also appreciate at BCC the fact that students are able to do either the full diploma program or able to opt into just doing a certificate where they might have a specific course or subject area that they're interested in, and they're able to take one or two or a few courses in that subject area and move on their way. So IB is very important at BCC. In a little bit later in this presentation, Ms. Dean will actually share with you some of the hard work that has been put in over the past few years and the successes that have been seen. So really happy to have all of you here, happy to have your children involved in the diploma program, and really look forward to being able to tell the story of their successes as we move through the year, as we get to the end of the year, and as we move on. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nelson, who's going to share a little bit of information about, you could go to that slide, Mr. Nelson, I'm sorry, who's going to share a little bit of information about the beginning of the year. But again, on this presentation tonight, I am here. Mr. Nelson, who is the assistant principal who supervises our IB programs, and then Ms. Michelle Dean, who is the diploma program coordinator. So Mr. Nelson, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to mute myself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mooney. I appreciate that. And I would like to say welcome to everyone who is here viewing our presentation tonight. Wanted to begin by just reviewing some of the topics that we will get to this evening. We will have a moment just to touch base on the announcement that we received from Governor Hogan last week. We're going to be speaking to the system's guiding principles, a moment on grading and reporting. We're going to take a look at the current daily schedule, some updates on parent time and how we're currently using that within the school year. What does your typical daily lesson? What should you expect a lesson to be like for your child? What are the school's expectations for student engagement? If your child is in special education or has a 504 plan, what will we be putting into place for students that have such plans? A little update on technology and materials information as things have been coming out to students. Athletics information, and then I will transition to Ms. Dean's update as the IB Diploma Programme Coordinator, and then we will wrap up our presentation. I wanted to just take the opportunity, like Dr. Mooney, to introduce myself and also speak to kind of some of my beliefs when it comes to the IB program. My name is Doug Nelson. If we have never had a chance to meet, this is my 11th year as an administrator and my second at BCC. My transition to the school, I can only describe as a really wonderful one last year. I've always made it a goal to come to high school and to work with students at this level. Prior to that, I was always at middle school. So I really enjoyed learning a new level here in Montgomery County Public Schools. But although I transitioned from a middle school to a high school, one thing that remained common for me in my professional career and work with students was my role is supporting an IB program. And I feel very fortunate to be working directly with that program here at BCC. All of the middle schools that I worked at before were middle years program, and now I've had the opportunity to come to BCC, learn a new school and program, and then this year have focused support with the IB program. So with our increased staffing, we were able to take a look at how we could align our roles and responsibilities in the school, and I am very glad to be supporting the students in the diploma program, as well as helping with the middle years program. And I just think that this is what I believe, is that students that want to come to an IB program, they very much want to tackle and take on a specific instructional approach and philosophy. And so I look forward to working with them this year. And I believe it's my role, along with Ms. Dean, in order to open the doors and to make sure that they have access to the things that they need in order to be successful in that program. One thing that always hits home with me about the IB program is it is a program that is guided by its philosophy. And the philosophy really says inquiry-based learning, distinct skills like the ATL skills, and thinking about who students need to become around the learner profile. It really is the essence of the program and gives students a unique learning opportunity. And so I feel very privileged to be working with that program and to be working with your students this year. One thing I do want to say to you all as parents, please reach out to me at any point in time. Email is a great way to get a hold of me. I'm happy to help you with whatever you need or connect you with the resources within the school. And with all of that being said, where that brings me to is what is on the slide. Although we are in this virtual environment and school certainly doesn't feel like it ever has before, I do in the end believe this, that to begin, we look forward to an amazing year of learning and growth. There might feel like there are barriers in front of us, but that does not prevent us in any way of making sure that your kids grow this year, that their learning continues, and that they make progress to going where they want to go as they move on in their academic career and as they move on to their learning outside of BCC High School. So that is my hope for this year. We're going to move into the specific content slides at this point in time. I wanted to just preface with everyone by saying that if you have attended any of the other presentations or any of the other grade level presentations, if you went to, let's say, the freshman presentation last week, if you attended the 11th grade presentation with Ms. Sutton last night, we are going over similar slides in each of these presentations. So if you feel like you got all of these for the next 11 slides, which I predict is around 10 minutes in time, feel free to step away. If you would like to stay and get this information again, I welcome you to stay and go through the content, but it will be repetitive if you have attended more than one of these presentations. So please feel free to step away, but make sure that you come back for Ms. Dean's information, because that is specific to this presentation and I don't want you to miss it. So we're going to start with Governor Hogan's announcement from last week, and I'm going to just highlight some points instead of going through this word for word. But what we want to come back to is the school system's response. So we had an announcement last week, and MCPS, even with that announcement, will begin the school year in virtual only instructional model, and we started that this week as we were scheduled to do. As we work through the response to the governor's announcement and the State Board of Education, we do respectfully ask that you allow the school system some time to thoughtfully assess these important developments and continue to prepare for the start of the school year. What has always been the approach of MCPS is to work with the county health officials, the Board of Education, and our executive staff in order to prepare a specific program for our students, and we will continue to do that moving forward. So when I looked at this slide, what I really walked away with was this, and I want to impart this to you, is as the announcements continue to come from officials and those in the health department, MCPS will respond in the best way that it can. We have been doing that and we will continue to do so. So as of tomorrow, we will still be in that virtual environment. I suspect in the coming weeks, updates will continue to come out. Our school teams will continue to look at that and figure out how we make that best fit at BCC. But I would encourage you all as parents and those supporting your kids at home, make sure you stay very engaged. You've already demonstrated tonight that you'll engage with this presentation and stay abreast to the most up-to-date information. Please continue to do that over time because we certainly will see this be an evolving process for all of us. MCPS announced a plan that has really taken us through the last 3 to 4 weeks, and the plan was titled Reimagine, Reopen, and Recover. And I felt like it was very important to speak to some of the guiding principles that are in that plan. Our school system brings those principles to the school, that it really is our responsibility to figure out how do we make these principles very tangible for our students, for our parents, and all of those that we work with. So the guiding principles that are really in place for us right now is we need to ensure safety and wellness for all of our students, that we must provide a robust and dynamic virtual learning experience for the first semester so that our students continue to grow academically, socially, and emotionally. We need to keep that eye on equity to ensure that all means all is truly actualized for our kids, that we optimize our resources and use them well, and that community and stakeholder engagement is in place. So these are specific principles identified in that document, and that really will be guiding our work as we continue to implement at BCC. An important topic to speak to tonight is grading and reporting, because this topic has shifted for us a number of times over the last so many months. So here's where we are with grading and reporting coming into this academic year. We continue to foster a robust instructional program. Students are expected to engage in live and high quality learning experiences according to that schedule. MCPS has returned to a letter grade system for this quarter and semester grades. If you go back to March when we were responding to the first weeks of the pandemic, we learned that grading and reporting was going to change. We learned that in Q3, enough instruction had happened that students were going to receive a letter grade in Q3. Then in Q4, we learned that all students were going to receive either a pass or incomplete based on meeting a certain number of criteria put out by MCPS. That resulted then in semester grades either being a pass, or students could select to receive a letter grade, which was going to be one letter grade higher than their third quarter grade, so long as they received a pass in Q4 and not an incomplete. So that was very specific to that time period. What's important to come back to now is that MCPS has returned to their letter grade system as it was before. Teachers will be administering classroom assessments. They are both external and district assessments based on the expectations of their curriculum. We will be doing that this year. Expectations for grading categories, such as assignments, weights, common assessments, those due dates and deadlines, they will return to expectations that were in place prior to March 2020. Students may be expected to complete asynchronous learning experiences and independent work in between when classes are formally coming together for virtual live instruction. So you should expect to hear your kids say that once they were done with a Tuesday Zoom session, they were asked to do something in between. Students may expect to spend up to 30 to 45 minutes per day on that independent work. Parents should expect to receive one graded assignment per week, which is the current guidance. Electives may function differently from core academic classes. So one distinction I want to draw here is, if you are looking at, let's say, your IB English class, Many of these expectations are in place: categories, district assessments, graded assignments. But when we take a look at our electives, we know that sometimes they may need to function differently. So if we're looking at an IB art class, it is not out of the realm of possibility to see more extended time between graded assignments if your child is working on a long-term art project, let's say in clay or another medium. So please be sure to communicate those specific questions to your teachers if you want to know how the grading and reporting is being implemented. Let's speak to the BCC weekly schedule. Montgomery County Public Schools has dictated to high schools at the start of the school year what that schedule will be. All high schools and MCPS must follow the same schedule. Schools will follow an 8-period day, and period 8 for BCC, since we were originally a 7-period schedule, will be our Barron time. Classes will meet for live instruction for 60 minutes twice a week, and the schedule does include time for where students can get support in TAP, which is an after-school academic support time, High School Plus, where students can recover credits, and advisory time and teacher planning. So let me speak just briefly to that schedule. If you take a look at what is on your screen, if you look at an A day, which for us this week was Monday, you will follow periods 1 through 4 starting at 9 a.m. with 15-minute breaks in between, a chunk of time right in the middle of the day for students to have lunch and a break. Period 4 begins at 1:40, and then students would go to Barron time based on the specifics put out to the school. So Barron time will be something to pay attention to because it will be specific to what we dictate would be A, let's say the class that you go to, or B, a special event or a special presentation. It will be evolving for us. So the students will be getting that information explicitly from their teachers, and it's something to, pay attention to. Day B, the next day, that was Tuesday of this week, then students went to period 5, then period 6, again lunch, period 7. There was a Barron time, and then time worked in for teacher collaborative planning. In that B day schedule, I want to point out that Barron time falls into what we call period 8. And that fills out that first 2-day 8-period block schedule. Wednesday was today. You'll see that outlined under that orange arrow, and you're going to see that students have virtual check-ins, then there's a lunch break, virtual check-ins continue, and then there's some time built in for case management for teachers to touch base with specific kids or make appointments and arrangements. A little note on TAP, I do want to make sure that I encourage you to pay attention for when that starts. We do at BCC have a lot of students who access TAP time, which is time when you have content teachers available to help students with specific assignments or preparations for exams. Our students use that resource. So we will be communicating in the coming weeks how that will work, who will be supporting TAP, when students should arrive. But please make sure that you're checking in with your child. If he or she would like to use TAP again this year, it will be made available to students in the virtual medium. And we, of course, want to thank the BCC Foundation. They have supported us with that program over time. Not all schools have a program like TAP, and so we want to thank them again for partnering with us to offer that support for kids. So what is Barron time? Well, Barron time is flexible time. It's built into the schedule. It will be used for a variety of things this year. Barron time would be a time for focused academic support. It would be a time for a student just to show up to ask a question, or if they're stuck with something, or follow up with a question, let's say about a paper that they're writing. Link crew activities for a freshman might be taking place during that time, but we know some of our students in the IB program or in 11th and 12th grade are Link crew sponsors. So they might be asked by one of the Link crew heads to show up for something during Barron time. It might be time for IB middle years program work, or it might be time for students to check in with Ms. Dean. Clubs may meet, social emotional learning lessons. That's one I'm working on right now. We are planning our first lesson in regards to that, which will be coming out in the next 2 weeks. We will be delivering that lesson during Barron time. It might be time for community building, and then other identified needs as we see necessary throughout the year. Please know that Barron time is something we are utilizing. So you might hear your kids say, I'm not really sure what's happening. I'm not supposed to show up for that. I would like you to put a question mark above that comment. And please encourage students, if that's just the way that they're looking at it, let's go back and talk with the teacher and see if there isn't something that really is going on, because we have that built into our schedule, and we're going to take advantage of the fact that we can roll certain important structures out to our kids. What is the structure of a typical Zoom lesson? So it is, of course, going to take place for 60 minutes when Actual instruction is taking place live over Zoom. What happens during that 60 minutes? Teachers have been advised to plan about 5 minutes for that warm up or welcome. They're going to be given a task. Attendance can be taken. Attendance will be taken during each time a class is scheduled to meet. So students do need to be attending so that they are marked present for their classes. After that, 5 minutes of framing to establish goals and a focus for that lesson, 20 to 25 minutes of the direct instruction about whatever the content is for the lesson, 20 minutes of activity time. It might be independent reading time, it might be time on writing a paper, it might be time to answer a couple of questions that are embedded into a particular presentation that the teacher has prepared, but it might be student breakout time, whatever the activity is that's planned for that lesson. And then 5 to 10 minutes to close out the lesson, possibly complete an exit card or advise students about what they're supposed to do in their asynchronous time. Last year, of course, we had many students that engaged with us during distance learning, but we certainly learned a lot during that time, which is engagement is so absolutely critically important. So as we come back to this semester, we want to do a couple of things. A, continue to keep engagement in focus. Be very clear about what we mean by that expectation of engagement. And so this year, our instructional leadership team has written out some criteria for engagement. We're going to go over that, but I want to come back to some big ideas when it comes to this concept. It is essential that students are engaged in learning on a regular and ongoing basis. If a high schooler does not fully engage in virtual learning, it is all but assured that she or he will not learn. They have basically made the decision, if they are not consistently engaging and completing all assignments, that they are taking themselves out of the learning environment, and we simply cannot have that happen, and we do not want to see our students fall behind with that. So daily attendance will be taken in all classes throughout the first semester, and we will be tracking that. But the big idea is that we recognize that as we move into this virtual learning, it is ideal that our students meet all expectations and engagement. So you will see that we have defined what that means for students, and let me quickly touch on this. What do we mean by engagement? It means we want our students in all Zoom sessions. We want them to participate when they are there, to not simply turn off that camera, to not answer a question when they're called on, or when they're asked to do a small task as a check-in. We want you actively engaged with that. Complete all your learning tasks and assessments. Seek help if you are stuck and you are not making progress in your work. Communicate with your teacher and that trusted adult when you feel like you are feeling overwhelmed or you have a question. Be in communication with us. Respect others, including peers and staff, when you are in the virtual environment. Collaborate with your classmates when asked, and maintain academic integrity. So we need to make sure that if you are not going to do something when it comes to academic integrity in the actual live classroom when a teacher is watching you, you should not do it in the virtual classroom either. A note on special education services and 504 plans. Students will continue to have their services documented in an individual distance learning plan for both special ed and 504 students. The IDLP will assign each student's IEP and describe a variety of services and supports in the distance format. Students with IEPs and 504 should expect to receive core instruction according to the standards and curriculum. That has not changed. You will have a written IDLP. This information will be shared with teachers to support accommodations in the classrooms. And counselors and case managers, counselors for 504 and case managers for special ed IEP will continue to hold screening and annual reviews for everyone in the virtual environment. Students with IEPs will receive support with learning from special ed teachers and paraeducators in a number of ways, including intervention in small group and one-on-one settings, and related services, including speech, physical, and occupational therapies. So this information is rolling out to parents in time. The main thing to really pay attention to here is that individual distance learning plan. This week, our opening week schedule, just want to touch on this because it is something that we are getting used to, how we have this kind of guiding schedule each week in an AB format. So you want to be sure you're checking with your kids often about what that schedule looks like. So on Monday was an A day, Tuesday B day. Today we went into those live check-ins. Thursday we have an A day. Friday we have a B day. Friday is also an early release, so that's shortened periods. So the schedule is something to pay attention to. How does your child access classes? Well, they log into My MCPS Classroom. I want to underscore this, that is very important. My MCPS Classroom is in fact the singular platform to use this year to access your classes. It's where assignments will be, calendars, it is where Zoom links are housed, announcement from your teachers. So that is where we need students to go in the virtual environment. In the classroom, you will find a tile on the dashboard, which takes you to each respective class. And then you click on that period to access your classes and passwords that will be needed. What if your child doesn't know their login information? You can email Ms. McCain. She is from part of the Media Center staff, and she will provide you login information. And if you need any support with troubleshooting, please see the BCC website where you'll see a Google form to let us know what support you need. I have worked on that team and kind of checked that document over time. We've had 180 requests for support. We've gotten to all of them in a very timely format. So please tell the kids just to reach out to us. We will be in touch with you. Technology information, students absolutely need to have their device for this year, and we have begun the distribution process. If you have not been assigned an MCPS Chromebook, or if you need a Wi-Fi or MiFi device, if you have a working Chromebook, continue to use it. If you have a MiFi device, continue to use that as well. A school technology distribution did take place last week, and students and families were assigned an obligation when a Chromebook was given out. Technology that was not picked up prior to the start of school will remain at BCC for pickup at a later date, and information is forthcoming. MiFi devices are currently in limited supply. For this reason, they cannot be given out at the school right now, but they can at 45 West Goody Drive. Please be advised that they are asking that MiFis go to households without internet access, not with just shaky, or sometimes your internet might get overloaded. They really are distributing these devices to those without internet. Please email your administrator or counselor if you have any technology requests. And there is a technology support number that I would take note of, which is 240-740-7022. Again, 240-740-7022. Please take note of that. You can call at any time for technology support. And for materials, during the week of August 24th, materials were distributed. We're talking about textbooks, books that you're reading for English, so on and so forth, technology, those types of things. Families were invited to come up and pick up your materials. And what if you were not able to come? We will have additional pickup dates that will be announced early in the school year. The team is already working on putting that together. A special note, 9th graders do not receive any textbooks, or their materials will be electronic. Grades 10 through 12, students may or may not have instructional materials. A database was developed and communicated on Dr. Mooney's community messages, so check that out so you can see if a specific class is on your schedule as to whether you had a material that was distributed. We just need to recognize that not all students will have those materials, and our teachers know that. So please don't worry, we have time, we will get there, but we have put out materials and we still are in the process of getting them out there. A quick note on athletics. In the first semester, the fall season, it will consist of 3 virtual seasons. The fall season will take place from September 14th to October 16th, the winter season from October 26th to December 4th, the spring season from December 14th to January 22nd. Students will not be cut. If you express interest, you will be able to participate, but please note that physicals are required. So you will still need to show that you have completed that required physical. Each week, the coaches will work on focusing on one of the RAISE core values. RAISE is an acronym. It's about respect and sportsmanship, academic excellence, integrity and character, spirited and safe competition, equity and access. And when it comes to athletics, please know that you can reach out to the coaches directly, as they are still the lead of those specific programs. And we also have a new athletic specialist at BCC, which is Mr. Mike Crozell. And so you can also reach out to him over the phone or over email with any questions about athletics. With that being said, I have gone through the updates that I was asked to speak to at the start of our presentation. And at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Michelle Dean, our IB DP program coordinator, and she's going to take you through some relevant information about the program.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Michelle Dean. This is my 5th year as the IB Diploma Program Coordinator, and I'm excited to be working with your students this year. Obviously, it's different. I'm glad I've gotten to know some of the seniors and juniors. I hope I'll get to know virtually, and we'll spend more time with them once we're back in school. And I look forward to meeting all of you who I have not met before too. So for tonight, I'm just going to go over the program requirements. Parents of seniors, you may already know this, but I just want to make sure everyone knows like what their child has gotten themselves into. I will talk about the May 2021 exams because IB has updated their expectations considering we are in this virtual environment. I'll also talk about my role as the coordinator, how we kind of create this diploma program community and ways to support your student throughout the program. So just so you can see, we have 98 senior diploma candidates and 130 as of yesterday, junior diploma candidates. This is the largest group I have ever worked with. When I started as a coordinator 5 years ago, I had a total of like 140 students. And so now we're much larger. And I'm really excited to have that many, but it is just an increased workload for me. So I just wanted you all to know that, but I'm so happy to have that many students with us. And then I'll talk about the results for the past, sorry, it's like you have to keep clicking, Mr. Nelson, and it'll show up. Yeah, keep going. So just so you can see, in 2019, we had 73 diploma program students. So that was just the seniors. 62 received their diploma, which was an 87.5% passing rate. I always think ours looks a little bit lower because we always have students who, by the end of the program, care more about being admitted to college and don't necessarily care about their IB diploma. So they might not even show up to an exam. But I think mostly the students who are invested in the program are going to pass. So that was 2019. Looking at 2020, this year was really different because the students didn't actually take an exam. Their score was based off of their internal assessment, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And so it was a little bit of a roller coaster. Scores were released. A lot of people in the IB Diploma Program coordinators were not happy with how the scores were figured out with this absence of exams. And IB surprised us and came back and changed a lot of scores. So we had 91 diploma program students last year. 84 received his or her diploma, which is a 92% passing rate, and which is wonderful considering the circumstances. And then just some other successes. This is the 5th year in a row where everyone has passed TOK and extended essay, which is something they have to do through IB, not just in MCPS. And I think we have a good understanding of why our students are passing, which I will talk about a little bit later too. In terms of our juniors who are now our seniors who took exams last year, not actual exams, 41 of them earned a score of 6 or 7, which to earn a score of 6 or 7 in IB is really, really difficult. And so to be able to say that we have 41 6s or 7s is a great success. And then, as I said, this past session was our best passing rate. So despite these pandemic challenges, our students are still doing really well. So just to talk a little bit about the program requirements, all students are taking 6 IB classes in 6 subject areas. So, and then they take TOK, Theory of Knowledge. There are 3 higher level classes and 3 standard level classes. And just to be clear, higher level doesn't mean that it's necessarily harder. Higher level means that it's 2 years, that you're spending more time learning the content in the class. So the test will ask for, or will require them to show more knowledge because they will have been in the class for more hours. Whereas SL is standard level, doesn't necessarily mean it's easier. It just means that you're not investing as many hours in the class. Some students can take 4 higher level and 2 senior level classes. There's not necessarily like a benefit, one or the other. It's just what students choose to do. Now, in terms of actually earning the IB diploma, students have to earn a score of 24 or higher on the exams. So each subject, not TOK, but each subject is worth 7 points. So, you know, if a student is earning a 4 in each subject, then they would earn their diploma. The highest score they can earn is a 45. They can actually earn bonus points from their theory of knowledge and extended essay, which is graded on an A, B, C, D, or E scale. And there's a whole matrix which I can share with you. And the students have seen it too, where if you earn an A and an A, then you get 3 extra points. If you earn a B and a C, you might only get 2 extra points. And also the one other thing I didn't add, but is a addition to all of this, is that their higher levels, they have to earn a score of a 12. So we have had people in the past who've gotten like a 26, but their higher level classes didn't equal a 12 and they didn't get their diploma. So then the next is they have to pass theory of knowledge and extended essay. And these are things that they'll do that are scored by IB. So we give them grades in MCPS for doing these assignments or doing these classes, but then there are certain assessments that get sent to IB, and those are scored, and that's how students end up with a pass. And in that, they just have to earn an A, B, C, D, or E. You can't earn A, B, C, or D. You cannot earn an E. Excuse me. And like I said, this is something that we do really well on. And then finally, students have to complete CAS projects, which I'll talk about, CAS requirements, I'm sorry, which I'll talk about in a little bit in terms of what students need to do. The only other thing I wanted to mention with this slide is that some people are confused about like IB scores and MCPS grades. Those are completely different. So IB scores are what students will get, you know, after they take the exam and do the internal assessment. Their grade is, you know, can be really different. So we've had students who've said like, how did I not get a 7 on this exam when I got an A in the class? And that's not exactly how it works. IB assessments are different and sometimes graded on a more harsh scale than our MCPS grades would be. So just to talk quickly about the extended essay, theory of knowledge, and CAS, there are some changes, and that's because the juniors are actually starting a new curriculum of theory of knowledge. So juniors and seniors, I know there are some of you who have students in both years, they will be doing different things. And so I'll actually talk about the seniors first for extended essay. They have finished their extended essay. They were introduced to the essay last year. They started working on it in December, and it went completely into the end of the school year. We even had a summer program for students who felt like they weren't able to finish it, so they had a little bit more time to get that done. They do submit the essay at the end of their TOK2 semester, so I will come into their class virtually. I'll walk them through the submission process. At this point, they really cannot make content changes. We have to verify that their essays have been are authentic, and they have to work with a supervisor. That is IB's rule. We can't just let students work on it completely on their own. So at this point, all seniors should be done, and they could only really do minor edits. The difference for juniors is that juniors, the TOK curriculum has changed, and there are 2 assessments that happen in TOK, which I'll talk about in a second. But we usually do the TOK assessments in senior year. With this new curriculum, one of the assessments is going to move to junior year. So that gives us less time to work on the extended essay junior year. I worked with the TOK teachers who teach juniors and seniors, and we have agreed on basically this format. Juniors are going to start the essay in theory of knowledge and work on it throughout the school year. So they will be introduced to it within the next couple of months. They will go through the process similar as what has happened in the past. They will be expected to submit a draft by the end of the school year. However, what's different is in TOK2, they will have more time to actually polish the essay. But I do want to make sure I reiterate this, that in order for students to pass TOK, like their MCPS grade for semester 2, the students must complete a draft. I mentioned earlier that I know why our students are passing their extended essay for the past 5 years, and that is because they have had to finish it as juniors, and they've had it off their plate, and they haven't had to worry about it, and they were forced to, in a sense, get it done. what we used to do many years ago is we allowed students to, take some time to finish it over the summer, and they'll just come back to it. And I can tell you that they do not spend the time that they need to on it. Senior year, they're working on, college essays. They are thinking about applications. They are working on other IAs. There's so much going on that even though we are going to build time into the school year for it, if they come in basically having done nothing because they thought that they had the rest of their senior year to work on it, they are not going to do well. So with that said, students will have a chance to work on it. Juniors will have a chance to work on their essay senior year, but we are expecting that they submit a rough draft at the end of their junior year. And then going on with theory of knowledge. So in order to pass theory of knowledge, our seniors this year do a presentation and they do a prescribed title, which is a 1,600-word essay answering a prompt that IB actually just released. There are 6 prompts and they choose one. So that is what they are working on this semester. It doesn't really give them a lot of class time to do anything else because they're really working on these things that are going to help them to earn their diploma. Juniors will instead do what's called a TOK exhibition instead of a presentation. And they will do this their junior year. So then their senior year, they'll only have to do the prescribed title, this essay, and they'll also work on their extended essay. So they'll be very writing based their senior year in TOK. And then, as I mentioned before, CAS is creativity, action, and service. And this is, it's similar to SSL hours, but it's easier because there are no hours being recorded. Students just have to complete experiences. So for example, for action, that means activity. So any student who's on a sports team, just being on a sports team is one experience. If they're not though, and they literally go to the gym, that can count as an activity. Now the idea is that they do something meaningful. They write reflections, and in the end, they kind of end up with an online resume, which I think is my next slide, Mr. Nelson. Yeah, so I jumped ahead a little bit, but I go over this with all the students. So parents, you don't have to know all this unless you really want to make sure your students are on top of things, but I will introduce CAS to them in the next couple of weeks. And then it is very independent. They don't really get class time to write these reflections, but it's not something that should take a very long time. There is also a CAS project, which is mainly just something that is a self-directed collaborative project that students can come up with. A lot of times students already have CAS projects that they didn't really think was a CAS project. Our students are in so many clubs, they're involved in so many things that typically they're already doing something that qualifies for this. We just sort of help them put it all together, and then they do reflect on it. If you have any questions about CAS or your student does, Kristen Barnhouse is the CAS coordinator. Her email address is here. She's the best person to contact because she really oversees CAS. She approves if it's an experience or not, and manage back where they write their experiences in, which you will see an example on the next slide. What I think is really great about manage back and how kids can kind of compile their CAS experiences is they record them, they reflect on them, and it ends up being, like I said, an online resume. I know that students sometimes, because CAS is the easiest part of the program, they don't always take it seriously, but I have found in the past couple of years that I might go look at CAS experiences when I'm writing recommendations, or even teachers who have to write a recommendation for their students. When we talk about awards at the end of the year, I might look at CAS to see like what have our students done. So I think this is a really great way to have that online resume. But again, I will go over the specifics with students in the next couple months. So another thing to talk about is just predicted scores, and this probably pertains more to seniors than junior parents. You can hear this again next year. But basically what a predicted score is IB asks teachers to submit a predicted score for each student. What do they think the student is going to earn out of a 1 through 7? I have to submit all of these predicted scores in April of a student's testing year. So our IB English juniors, they won't get a predicted score until their senior year. So seniors, any class that they're testing in this year, they'll have a predicted score. The score is based on how the student performed on the IA, how the student generally does in the class and how the teacher thinks the student will do on the exam. So the teacher really has to consider all of the things that the student has done throughout the school year to predict this score. It doesn't necessarily impact a student's grade, although it did last year when we lost out on exams. However, the reason I bring this up is because colleges may ask for predicted scores. Most US schools prefer students' transcript and grades as opposed to predicted scores. So a lot of people are seeing on Common App the ability to put in predicted scores. And usually I tell students it's not necessary because their grades are going to be more of a reflection of their transcript. However, we can send scores to schools, and students can see me if they want to start that process. I will also talk about the final scores can get sent to colleges. That's something that we do. So students don't have to do predicted scores when they're applying to college. They can wait until they've actually done the test, and then those scores can be sent to a school later for college credit. The thing about predicted scores is they are like college recommendations. We keep them confidential. That is something that IB recommends, and it's mainly because once we tell you those scores, in past experience, I've pretty much been told by parents that they don't like the score, or students, and they want a different score. And so then predicted scores really become irrelevant because they're just what the student or parent wants the score to be and not what the teacher actually thinks. Another thing that's always tricky is predicted scores are usually due in October. And like I said, teachers aren't actually submitting them to IB until that following April. So there's a lot of things that teachers will see from a student between October and April. So they may think, okay, from what I've seen so far, I think this student would get a 5. But potentially later on in the year, the student does the IA, which is the internal assessment, which each class has a different internal assessment. It's pretty much a paper based on a topic in that subject. And they might say, wow, they did really great on this internal assessment. I actually think they would get a 6. And there's no way that we can go back and change that with schools. So I just like to bring that up, that we are happy to give you predicted scores, but the earlier you ask for them, which I understand sometimes people need them, we may not be able to give you the most accurate score because we haven't seen everything from the student at that point. So also just to talk about expectations of IB students, I mean, obviously this is a rigorous program. It is doable and it's meant for anyone who is interested in it. The things that I ask from IB students is that I'm taking this from the IB learner profiles, that they are principled and that they are academically honest. You know, I like to trust that our students are going to do their best work and do their own work. But also I understand that when they get really stressed out, they're going to find ways to make their life easier. And in the long run, it doesn't make their life easier. So I talk to students about this a lot, but I encourage them to always do their own work. In this virtual learning world, I expect that they're going to be participating. That's the best way for them to learn in an IB class. IB classes are very discussion-based a lot of times. And so sitting back and turning the screen off and walking away is not going to be the best way to learn in an IB class. IB students are also balanced. So as I already said, they attend all classes. They also, you know, work on asynchronous work when they need to. They also must complete work on time and meet deadlines. I always say to them, sometimes I know MCPS deadlines are flexible, but IB deadlines typically are not. And so the deadlines that I share with them pretty much need to be met. So that way they aren't missing a chance at their diploma because they've missed an IB deadline. And finally, that students are communicators and inquirers. I hope that they will advocate for themselves and seek help when needed, but also that's what I'm here for. So if they don't feel comfortable talking to a teacher, you know, I hope that they would come to me if they do need help. So going into what has changed for the May 2021 exams, I understand that a lot of people are worried right now about, you know, their students' success. And IB recognizes that we lost teaching and learning hours in the spring, and that our current virtual schedule does not provide as many hours of learning compared to in-person. I sent this in an email and I will reiterate it again. Almost every subject, except for environmental systems and societies and the 4 new IB math courses, there have been amendments or removals to the exam to correspond with the learning hours. So I gave an example here, but I'll give you another one too. I used to teach IB English, and they removed paper 2, which is part of the exam. In paper 2, students had to read 3 novels and write about 2 of them in that exam. So the fact that they got rid of it means that those students don't have to know those 3 novels inside and out for this exam, which is a huge amount of time taken off from them. Similarly with bio, physics, chem, and sports, exercise, health, IB removed this required group 4 project. So that's completely gone, which took 2 school days for students to complete. And then also a full portion of the paper, 20% of the students' final exam score, paper 3, which in some of the subjects corresponds with like 2 units. Some it's a little bit different. But again, IB has made really fair modifications. Teachers have looked at these modifications, and we've been working to see if, this still doesn't work for them. And every teacher feels like they are now prepared to get their students where they need to be. Also, in many classes, the internal assessment processes and requirements are being modified. So for our sciences, a lot of times they're required to do experiments. Obviously that can't happen. So IB has provided millions of resources for teachers and students to be able to do like virtual experiments that would count for their internal assessment. So then just going into parents' roles, my role, and how to stay up to date with the diploma program. We do have a website, ib-bcc.com, and I don't actually manage the website, Ms. Barnhouse does, and we are working on updating it. It isn't our biggest priority, so please just give us a little bit of time to get that finished. I also started an MCPS classroom for IB Diploma Program students, which I've already filled with tons of information. I have 9 students left to accept my invitation, so I will reach out to those students and parents too, just to make sure that everyone has access to all those resources. And then if you haven't already, for parents, you should join our listserv, which I send out updates probably too often. The instructions are here. I also have a Twitter that I manage pretty poorly, but I'm working to improve that. So feel free to follow us on Twitter too. And then just so you know my role, I wanted to go over this because my biggest priority is to work with the students, and I love hearing from parents, and some of you have so many enthusiastic ideas for the diploma program, and I just want you to see kind of the things that I have to do overall to manage the program. And also I work really hard to make sure that we create a community environment. I'm still working on how that's going to look virtually, and that's definitely where I can use parent help as well. But right now we have around 230 diploma program students, and I'm working on making sure they are all in the correct classes. They are meeting the completing the requirements for the program. So right now it's just very like labor intensive administrative work in terms of I have to sit and look up everyone's schedule and look at their classes and make sure that it's matching their plans that I made with them. I also will start meeting with them in small groups in the next couple of weeks to make sure that they're on the right track. I also have to register every student for their exam in by November 15th. It doesn't sound like it would be that difficult, but IB's processes are never super simple. So I usually start now, and I am barely making the deadline on November 15th. It's a time-consuming process. Then once that ends, I'm still supporting our diploma students, but I also start promoting the diploma program to the 10th graders. So parents of juniors, I may have met with you last year. I spend lots and lots of time meeting with our 10th graders to make sure that they have 2-year plans so that they're set up for success if they choose to do the program. And then continuing to just my role, I also have to work on submitting all of our externally and internally assessed work by their deadlines, and they vary based on subject area. So starting January 15th, I ask our seniors to start uploading their extended essay. Usually, even though I tell them it's due by the end of January, many of them don't have it formatted correctly. They're missing some part of it, and it takes me about another month to make sure that they are actually getting it in on time. And I do that with all the subject areas. So it is also a time-consuming process, making sure that they are submitting the correct work and that it's the best work that they can to IB. And then I administer all exams. Obviously, last year I didn't have to do that. And actually, 2 of the other 4 years I've been coordinator, I conveniently went out on maternity leave. So this coming year will only be my 3rd year of administering IB exams. The schedule is being revised now that the exams have been changed, but we haven't been given that information yet. And then finally, I also have to work with teachers. All of our teachers have been trained in their subject area. Many of them went to an online training this summer to get up-to-date training. We're providing them with resources. In Thinking is a great resource for teachers and students. We have, for every subject that we can have a subscription for, we do. We have IB question banks, which we also buy subscriptions for every subject we can. I'm supporting teachers throughout the virtual learning semester, so I'm working on co-teaching with several teachers, dropping in on IB classes just to make sure that students are getting what they need. And then I highlighted this because obviously to me, most importantly, is that I'm here to support and advocate for our students. I like to make them feel special. I like to make it feel like they're a community within a bigger school. Like I said, if you do have ideas for how to make that work virtually, it was really easy when we were in school to just have snacks in my office, or the students' favorite hot chocolate week in the winter. Obviously that's different, so I'm willing to take any suggestions you have for keeping up that community aspect. And then also, just for now, I'm still working on how I can meet with students, and as this schedule is just being created, I don't want to have students miss class by meeting with me. So I have office hours in between each class period. On the MCPS classroom page, there's a link to my Zoom that students can just join. If one student has joined, I only admit one at a time, so another may just have to wait. I'm available during lunch. I'm working on some of the after school times too. Students can also email me to set up an appointment in advance if that's easier for them. And then, like I said, I will be requiring all the students to meet with me within the first month of school. And that's a diploma requirement, not just like an option for me to see them. It's something that we need to do to check in. And then these are just some other people to contact. And I always feel bad when people come to me because I am a resource for your students, but I can't do everything. So I will answer questions, I will work with students, but a lot of times I may have to, send you to someone else. So these are just people that you should know. So that way, if you do have questions, there are other people that relate to these things, there are other people you can go to. Really quickly, I will send out a letter about this, but I just wanted to share that IB exam fees are due really by October 30th. I have to receive the payment before I can register students. Each exam is $119, which can be paid online, and I'll send out the links for those. We do help people financially if they need it. So I just wanted to share that, the sooner you can pay the exam fees, that helps me, because that's the sooner I can officially register a student. And then that's one less person I have to worry about when that deadline comes. And then just other ways to support our candidates. Parents, please make sure your students are attending classes and just keeping up with the work. You can always ask them on their progress on internal assessments. A lot of the teachers said they're even starting to introduce internal assessments earlier in the school year, so students have time to think about it and brainstorm. Typically, they aren't due until December through March. I have students seek academic help, make sure they come see me if they need to. And then for you to just stay up to date, the BCC IB website, the MCPS classroom, and the listserv are all ways to just know what's going on so you can support your student.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for all of that information and giving us the things that we need so we have a really successful start this year in the IB program. This also brings us to the concluding slide of our presentation this evening. Just some thank yous to throw out there. Of course, I'd like to thank again Michelle Dean for spending some time with us and giving this specific information that we know our parents need so they can support their kids at home and be very, very informed. Thank you for your time. To Dr. Mooney, of course, for getting us started this evening and for beginning our presentation and kicking things off. I personally have enjoyed my time with you this evening, and please know as we move forward, Michelle Dean had referenced this, but I will say the same thing. There's a list of individuals supporting this program. I just want to encourage you all to reach out to us if you do have any question. You might not hit the exact person, but we will definitely get you in touch with the person who can help you with that question. So please do not feel like you are overburdening us or you're hesitating to reach out. We would much rather hear from you, and then we'll know how to direct that question, or we might just be able to answer that question for you as well. So please be in communication with us. A plug, if I might, our back to school night is virtual this year and taking place on Thursday, September 10th. It's going to begin at 6 p.m. The specifics will come out as a school-wide communication in advance of that evening. So please make sure that you are on the lookout for how it will be structured, how you will access those virtual presentations by our teachers. The gears are turning right now. It was the first agenda item as our instructional leadership team came together. So please know that that information is forthcoming and we'll be in touch with you. And that concludes our presentation. I go back to the slide in which I was introducing myself just to say I truly do think that we will have a great year. So I hope that it is successful for you and your kids and that they grow and learn so much this year. It is not ideal, but I certainly think that we have opportunities in front of us that if we take advantage of them, we'll have a really wonderful year together. So